Imagine a system where your financial history, legal behavior, and business conduct are recorded, where unpaid debts could restrict your ability to travel, where court judgments might affect your access to loans. For years, headlines around the world have claimed that China created a dystopian social credit score that tracks every citizen's move. But what is China's social credit system really? Is it a single nationwide score? Is it a tool of total surveillance? Or is the reality more complex? This is the story of how China built its social credit system and what it actually does. To understand the social credit system, we need to go back to the early 2000s. At the time, China's economy was growing rapidly, but its financial infrastructure lagged behind. There was no unified national credit scoring system like in the United States. Fraud was common. Contract enforcement was inconsistent. Businesses could disappear overnight without consequences. Trust, especially between strangers, was a major challenge in a rapidly modernizing society. In 2014, China's State Council released a national planning outline for building what it called a social credit system. The goal? To improve trustworthiness in society. But what did that actually mean? Contrary to popular belief, China does not operate a single unified citizen score that determines every aspect of your life. Instead, the social credit system is a broad framework made up of multiple databases and enforcement mechanisms. At its core, it focuses on financial creditworthiness, legal compliance, regulatory violations, court judgments. For example, if someone refuses to comply with a court order, such as repaying debt, they may be placed on a public discredited persons list. This can result in restrictions like being blocked from purchasing high-speed rail tickets, restrictions on luxury spending, limits on certain business activities. These lists are often managed by courts and government agencies, not a single central scoring authority. In other words, it functions more like a compliance blacklist system than a universal behavior score. One of the least discussed aspects internationally is corporate social credit. Companies operating in China are rated based on compliance with tax laws, environmental regulations, labor standards, industry-specific rules. Poor compliance can result in penalties, increased inspections, or restricted access to contracts. For the government, this creates a regulatory enforcement tool in a massive economy with millions of businesses. Rather than constantly conducting inspections, authorities can tie compliance records to future permissions and privileges. It's governance through data. Private credit scores versus government systems. Much of the confusion internationally stems from private sector credit programs. For example, Alibaba Group once operated a private credit product called Sesame Credit. It scored users based on financial history within Alibaba's ecosystem, similar in some ways to Western credit scoring systems. However, this was not the official national social credit system. The Chinese government never fully adopted a single consumer score run by tech companies. Still, because companies like Tencent and Alibaba collect massive amounts of data through payment platforms and apps, concerns about data sharing and privacy continue to raise questions globally. The line between state regulation and private tech infrastructure remains complex. So, what actually happens if someone ends up on a discredited list? According to official reports, millions of individuals have faced temporary travel restrictions for failing to comply with court rulings. These restrictions are typically tied to unpaid debts, fraud cases, contract violations. Once the individual complies with the court's decision, they can be removed from the list. Supporters argue this improves accountability and strengthens the rule of law. Critics argue that public blacklists and automated penalties create pressure mechanisms that can be excessive. Importantly, most penalties are administrative rather than criminal, and they are usually tied to legal violations, not everyday behavior like crossing the street incorrectly. One of the most persistent myths is that every citizen has a constantly changing score based on social behavior, like friendships or political opinions. There is no publicly verified evidence of a nationwide unified behavioral score like that. However, China does operate extensive digital surveillance systems in urban areas. Facial recognition cameras and data monitoring exist independently of the social credit framework. While these systems may interact in some contexts, they are not the same thing. The social credit system is more about compliance and enforcement records than real-time lifestyle grading. But the perception of total scoring has become powerful in global media. So how did China build its social credit system? Not as a single dystopian citizen score, but as a network of compliance databases, blacklists, and regulatory enforcement tools. Its primary goals: increase trust, improve contract enforcement, strengthen regulatory oversight. Whether one views it as efficient governance or concerning oversight depends largely on perspective. What's clear is this: in a country of 1.4 billion people, data has become one of the most powerful tools of governance, and the world is still debating what that means for the future. If you like this video, don't forget to like and subscribe for more.